I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, June 26th, 2020. Uh, what's been going on in the media, folks, is you can't look at the mainstream legacy media without saying this is a giant psyop. This is a giant propaganda tool. I mean, from the repeated of stories that they go after over and over again and then discredited, from the VA story about hydroxychloroquine didn't work, total garbage story, according to the VA. Also, the Lancet Medical Journal, they had to completely walk back, disavow a story because, the information they got was totally fraudulent. The data was no good. That hydroxychloroquine didn't work. And yet the mainstream media spares no expense and leaves out no fact that destroys the idea that hydroxychloroquine can work. It works. All the scientific evidence is out there. It works. The mainstream media continues to lie, but that's not the big lie. That's just one of the many lies. And here we have now, and my printer, I got a Microsoft update. My printer messed up, so you better watch your printer if you get the latest Microsoft update. It's disconnected older printers. And this is the New York Times Siena College poll. This is just unbelievable, folks. This is like 2 weeks before the election, and Hillary Clinton's up by 12 points, according to an ABC News poll. Even Stephanopoulos, I sat there and watched him go, well, I don't believe she's up 12 points, maybe 6 points. I've told you that before. I saw him on the air say it. But here's one. This is about Basement Joe, a guy in his basement that cannot string 2 or 3 sentences together without goofing up. A guy who's Terry McAuliffe, who's a top guy in the who was a former governor of Virginia, top guy in the Democrat Party, big fundraiser for him, saying it's okay for Joe to be in his basement. It's okay. And here we have a poll, the New York Times, the complete psyop, globalist New World Order, racist hiring, and they do have racists that hate white people. I think what's her name, Jeong, is on their board. But anyway, on their editorial board, she hates white people. New York Times Siena College poll: 50% Biden to 36% Trump. The headline was, Biden's ahead of Trump by 14 points. You've got to be kidding me. The psyop about this is unbelievable. And I think this is going to backfire on the Democrats. I'll tell you in a minute. But let's go back to Donald Trump and his a big rally in Tulsa. They had Black Lives Matter, among other things, block the doors, block the gates, the entryways in protest to make sure the crowd is small, and also the idea that, it's going to be COVID spreading, and then on top of it you had AOC, Ocasio-Cortez tweeting out, we had groups together that went online and got large sums of tickets, so make it look like, Donald Trump, that nobody showed up for Donald Trump's, big rally. Which, what the Democrats are telling you is, all we have are dirty tricks in psyop games. We haven't put out a single thing that's going to make your life better. I mean, the Green New Deal is going to throw businesses out of work and ship jobs overseas and bankrupt people, and it's awful. It's something that they came up with on a weekend. I kid you not. They came up with it on a weekend. The Green New Deal, it's just some phrase. And then, the Democrats are all holding their hands up during the including Biden, during the debates for we're going to give health care to illegal aliens. They have all these sanctuary cities that the Supreme Court let that ruling stand. So that's what we got from now until the election, probably. They support Antifa and Black Lives Matter. The group that's one of the co-founders says they are a Marxist trained organization, and they're not really for the traditional family with a male and a female, mommy and a daddy. A couple of transgenders. It says it on their webpage. It says it on the Black Lives Matter webpage. That's their words. That's what it says. And in the CHOP zone, or the autonomous zone in Seattle, which I don't know if they're tearing down, there's 8,000 people in there in that zone, likely most of which were Democrats, but I bet you not now. They let that happen. They brought on porta potties and food, and people were murdered and shot and raped and robbed, according to multiple reports. And that's what Democrats are going to vote for? I don't think so. There's going to be a percentage of Democrats. This won't show up in the polls. They're not going to vote for that. Now, that's a bridge too far. You don't think Democrats like nice cars and houses and, a retirement and, things like that? They do. They do. They're misguided. Now you're seeing the full effect of really, I voted for this? Yes. But I think what they're doing with these phony polls, this New York Times Siena College poll with Biden up 50%, they're going to have a hard time replacing him at the convention. Anybody who's thinking they're going to replace him with the governor of New York, Cuomo, which I think damaged goods, he's already saying, well, all the people died in the nursing homes up here because of his decision. Well, that's just the GOP playing games with the numbers. Now, if that was one of your parents, that they stuck a COVID Wuhan virus infected person into the nursing home and your loved one died, no, that's not a game. That's a real occurrence, and it happened more than 5,000 times in New York State. So, but I think what they're doing is they're solidifying as they got to go with Trump, no matter how goofy, no matter how poorly he does. After the convention, there won't be any changing unless, heaven forbid, and I'm not wanting violence on anybody, but unless something physically happens to him, they're going to be stuck with him. And he's already supposedly committed to 3 debates with Donald Trump. Could you imagine? He can't hardly even have a cognitive conversation with people on MSNBC, people that support him completely. He can't keep his thoughts together. Can you imagine having your thoughts together in an interview with Donald Trump, who knows what he's going to say? Like telling Hillary Clinton, if I was in charge, I'd put you in jail. And that may still happen. John Solomon is out now again. He's back and forth. Nobody's going to be arrested. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Who knows? I've been back and forth, too, based on what Barr says, and the Attorney General, William Barr, and I'm hoping that he's going to – we got no country if he doesn't go into this and arrest people and put them in jail. And they're all going to say Barack Obama made us do it. I've told you this before. DNI, Director of National Intelligence, Clapper, said this on CNN twice, not once, twice, that it was him, Barack Obama. Now we have the revelation that Peter Strzok's notes are out there, which clearly says Obama and Biden are involved in the coup with the FISA and the General Flynn. They needed him. They needed him guilty. They needed Donald Trump to have to step in and exonerate him, or step in and pardon him, and the 3-judge panel stopped that cold. But I do think this is going to backfire in the Democrats' faces. And Biden has completely accepted the far left-wing extreme. And so is every other Democrat. And lo and behold, here they're getting all this money from Act Blue and Black Lives Matter. If you go on there and you say donate, and it goes to Act Blue, which is a Democrat-controlled way to fund money to Democrat causes, I think they have a major problem with the campaign finance laws. I think they have a major problem doing that. I think they're going to be stuck. They keep coming up with these votes. Oh, Biden's up by 14%. Why would you trade him out at the convention? Why would you look at Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York? Why would you change him out if he's up by 14 points? I think that's a lie. I just think the psyops in the media, in the mainstream media, and when 3 years ago when Trump was elected, they did the first 100 days of office at Harvard, at the Sorensen School at Harvard. Hardly a right-wing conservative institution for journalism. And, some of the networks were in the 90s. The top networks were in the 90% in terms of negative stories. You notice they haven't had another one of those polls out, another one of those research projects, because I think they're in the 99% of things they say are all negative against the president. They go out of their way to say negative things about the president, even if they have to make it up. They distort what he says. They don't report what he says. Here you have these Strzok notes that says Obama's involved, and so is Biden, the presumptive Democrat candidate for president for the Democrat Party. And you're not hearing much on that. And Flynn, this thing with the Department of, can you imagine the Department of Justice and Flynn's lawyer, Sidney Powell, on the same side arguing we want to drop this case. Can you imagine that? So let's see. Let's hear from you. We want to drop the case. Okay. Let's hear from you. We want to drop the case. We think the case should be dropped. Drop. Oh, no, no, no. The Judge Sullivan's not going to do that. And then it goes to the circuit court of the circuit court, D.C. Circuit Court. And remember this name, Naomi Rao, R-A-O. Naomi, Neomi, Remember this name. She's going to be nominated for the Supreme Court. She wrote a takedown of Robert Wilkins, who was, there's one judge dominated to this court by Bush 43, one judge by Obama in 2010, and one judge by Trump. This is so important. These judicial nominations are so important. You don't want to take everything to the Supreme Court, not with people like, John Roberts and who knows what Neil Gorsuch is going to do. I'm a woman, but I have all the male genitalia. Oh, well, okay, you have rights. But anyway, that's Gorsuch. But you don't want to have to take every case to the Supreme Court. And so Naomi Rao was put on the D.C. Circuit Court, and she wrote a destroyed Sullivan, who hired an attorney to go and make his appeal to the circuit court as to why they should sentence General Flynn, even though all the dirty tricks came out and all the emails came out that they wanted to make him guilty. They wanted to get him to plead. They wanted to, he ended up, they were wrecking him. They were going to take his son to jail, and he pled guilty to a crime he didn't commit. That's obvious. The records say that. So it's a slam dunk. I mean, the people that prosecuted him got this deal that she could go to jail. But Naomi Rao wrote just destroyed. It's like Wilkins didn't even go to law school. He looks like a illiterate in law, and he is a D.C. Circuit Court judge. He doesn't understand the separation of powers in our government, which is judicial, legislative, and executive. Executive is one person. They're talking about just the president. And the executive branch has the Department of Justice in it, and they're the ones to decide who gets prosecuted, not the judges. They rule on the cases to make sure they're following the rules and the Constitution. And, of course, the legislative, they're the people that produce money and funds, but that doesn't make any difference anymore because, we have all this secret money that nobody wants to talk about that's now a national security issue. I'm going to have Dr. Mark Skidmore on, the professor of economics, expert in public business from Michigan State University. He's the one that discovered the $21 trillion, along with Catherine Austin Fitts. They teamed up with this thing. Both have done great work on it, but he used Office of Inspector General reports. This is not some basement crazy, tinfoil hat thing from the Department of Defense and Housing and Urban Development, which they've scrubbed, and now everything he asked for now, is now a national security issue. They did it from 98 to 2015, so 16, 17, 18, 19, 2020. What went on? Did they take some more money? The answer will surprise you. He is the guest for the early Sunday release, Dr. Mark Skidmore, who the university, Michigan State University, wrote a big report about him finding this $21 additional trillion to what is now our national deficit is $25 trillion on top of the $21 trillion. And we're going to talk about if there's more in 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. You think there's more? Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I'm surprised that nobody asked Donald Trump a question about this. He brings up in his, I'm going to backdoor this into gold in the reset. He brings up, this is the most important thing he said during his, rally in Oklahoma, in Tulsa. And he blurts out, Germany owes us $1 trillion. Excuse me? What? Excuse me? Yeah, because in NATO, they haven't been involved. They owe us $1 trillion. You think they're the only European country that wasn't ponying up the money they should have been doing the last 20 years or so for NATO, and U.S. was picking up the slack? But Germany's the biggest industrialized nation in the European Union. Germany, that's the big crown jewel of production manufacturing, the Bavarian Motor Works, the whole deal over there, and also home to the most corrupt bank, I think, probably in the world, and the most systemically dangerous bank, according to the IMF, Deutsche Bank, DB. But he came out during the rally and said Germany owes us $1 trillion, and none of the doofus, goofy reporters would ask Kelly McInerney or ask the president, hey, Germany owes us $1 trillion? What does that mean? How are we going to collect that? Is that part of the reset? Okay, now I'm speculating. Now I'm totally in speculation field. Okay, he did say that's fact, but nobody asked a question about that. $1 trillion, not a billion, not a couple of billion because we extended a runway and added a few things to Ramstein Air Force Base. No, nothing small like $1 trillion. And so, is he tipping off what's going to happen in part of the reset? I mean, remember we had Germany's gold. Why do we have Germany's gold? Because they were always afraid the Russians would blow into Europe and overrun them, and with their massive tank advantage, which is why we invented the A-10 aircraft, low and slow, Warthog. It was a tank killer. That's why we invented it, right? And so they had superiority, but we had that Warthog that would just blister them with depleted uranium. They would just destroy them, just fly. It looks like there's something that big and that heavy flying that slow is bizarre. You could shoot the wing off one side of it and still fly. Warthog A-10. But anyway, but they were afraid, so they gave us their gold on deposit. And remember a few years back they were asking for their gold back. We didn't give them much. Supposedly we gave them, I don't know, a few hundred tons. They didn't say anything about it. Could it be that Donald Trump, when this whole reset happens, and who knows when it's going to happen, but the debt's unpayable, we're never paying it back. Stop. Anybody who's thinking we're paying this back, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Is he going to take their gold and say, okay, you don't owe us $1 trillion. We have your extra 3,000 or 2,500 or 50. I don't know how many tons he had. They supposedly had 3,000. They're the second or third biggest gold holder in the world behind the United States. I think they were number 2. I think the IMF is number 3. Germany is number 2. Anyway, it's up there. Is he just going to claim their gold that we have on deposit and say it's ours now? We'll pay for that $1 trillion. How about all the other countries that didn't add to NATO and didn't have 2% of their GDP and they did 1 or 0.5% or none or whatever? How many others are over there that did that we are holding onto their gold? Gold's going to be part of the reset, folks. And it's weird. I got an email from, I'm going to try to interview him, and I got an email from Nick Barashef at Scotiabank. That's a big gold bank. And his secretary, wrote me, his secretary, and said, we wanted to come on and talk to you about our cutting off our relationship with the London Bullion Market Association. I'm like, excuse me? You're a huge gold bank in North America, so Scotiabank, and you're not going to be doing business with the LBMA? What's going on? Now, there's some rumors out there from good sources that say we're going to have a failure to deliver. Now, we've had this for a long time. Bill Holter talked about it a few weeks ago, saying it was high before, and but in the last couple of months, it's gone just huge. It was high, and now it's 3 or 4 times higher when it was high, in terms of people standing for delivery, wanting their metal. The talk has always been, the game goes as long as the paper contracts hold up, as long as they don't get overrun for standing for delivery for silver and gold, for the actual physical metal. Have they been getting some banks to funnel some money in for some kind of delivery to keep this Ponzi scheme going? But clearly a Ponzi scheme. Listen, anybody, even Jim Rickards comes on and says anybody that says the gold and silver market aren't manipulated just isn't being honest. This is Jim Rickards. It's just not being honest. I mean, it's an open secret. They've paid fines. They've pled guilty to crimes, whether it be Deutsche Bank, whether it's the Forex market, the gold, silver, futures, we don't have a single free open market. The volume discounts to central banks at the CME group, so they can trade, so they can make their, I don't know, are they making their currency look better than what it is, so they can hold the inflation down in commodities, and what it really is the commodities should be way, way higher. Should gold and silver be way, way higher with the exponential function of the government printing money? That's just the stuff you know about. They went from $3.7 trillion on their balance sheet in September of 19, 6 months ago or so, and now it's over $7 trillion. They doubled it. Rickards, I had him on the phone. I'm going to try to book him for the end of the year. For sometime in July. And he was talking, he's going to have a new book out, incidentally. He goes, I don't think I'm spilling anything, but I don't know the title, but he's going to have a new book out. He's a 4-time best-selling author. And I said, you told me on one interview that what's the Fed going to do? Double their balance sheet from $4.5 trillion to $10 trillion or to $9 trillion? And the answer is yes. And he started laughing. He goes, yes, you're right. So what is this going to do to the value of your currency? How is this going to, are we going to keep doing this to infinity? What's the money going to be worth? What's the euro going to be worth? What's the yen, the yuan, the dollar? I mean, can this keep going on without a giant debt reset? And is the $1 trillion that he put out there, and then no reporter will even ask him, that's a legitimate question. That's a question I would ask the president. Hey, you did, Mr. President, you said that you ever noticed $1 trillion? What do you mean by that? Are we going to get that money back? How are we going to get that money back? No, stupid. I think they picked the dumbest people to be in the Washington press corps now, or the most corrupt, or both, stupid and corrupt, except for Michelle Raymond and a few others. But she's from OAN. She asks legitimate questions. But I don't want to paint everybody with a broad brush, but many are stupid and are corrupt. And then we have something else the president brought up, which I thought revealed what he was doing. And, the CHOP zone or the autonomous zone in Seattle, where they had all these riots and all people shot and they wouldn't let the cops in and they had people in the hospital and who knows what happened. They were busting down doors, asking for reparations. They were robbing people, raping people, reportedly. You know how many people lived in that CHOP zone? I thought maybe it's just a few hundred people. Oh, no, which is bad enough. 8,000. 8,000 of the residents, they just allowed their neighborhood to be taken over by thugs and criminals, and they didn't send the police in. They couldn't even get in. I would send in SWAT. You get in our way and you're done. I mean, and now they're suing. The city of Seattle. I'm sure the city of Seattle is going to say, well, you didn't think we were supposed to protect you with our police. You didn't think that you were getting that for your taxes. Oh, really? You need to refund all my taxes because you ruined my, can you imagine the damage? You're going to see all the damage coming up. Supposedly it's being torn down. I don't know. We'll see. But this is Governor Inslee didn't call up the National Guard as soon as that happened. The mayor was like, her house was vandalized. She called it domestic terrorism. I don't know. Are they asking him, pretty please go away? This is what your vote's getting. This is where we're going. And then you got your Black Lives Matter, who was on Martha McCallum on Fox, and his name is Hawk Newsom. And he says, if the U.S. doesn't give us what we want, we will burn down the system and replace it. Well, I thought this was about helping black people. This is not about helping black people, folks. That's a lie. Black Lives Matter is a Marxist organization that's about ruining the traditional family. Some of the European leaders are totally against that and coming out about it. I think the leader of Hungary is saying he's not. That's a political ploy. This is not a real thing. They don't want mommy and daddy. They want tran and tran. They went transvestite and transvestite. They went some transsexual. Mommy and daddy isn't a male and a female. They don't want daddy in the house either. Oh, that's statistically, that's worked great for black Americans. No daddy at home. 70% of women, of black girls giving babies out of wedlock, that's gone great. Statistically, it basically nearly guarantees they'll be in poverty the rest of their lives. Yeah, that's fabulous. No black daddy. And of course, this idiot Wallace at driving the 43 car, he's all for Black Lives Matter. I can't breathe. He's stupid. I wrote Kyle Petty, who's I think running the thing. Go on Black Lives Matter and look about what we're about and go down to about the middle of the page and start reading about how they're trans friendly and they don't want daddy in the house and they don't like a traditional family and they want to make things good for trans families. And this is what blasphemy. Oh, and we donate to Democrats, and the co-founder, as I said earlier, is a trained Marxist. This is about a takeover, folks, and the mainstream media is covering the takeover, even up to, a few weeks ago, ABC News saying, oh, it's a street party. You see a picture out there on the street. This is not a street party, a street festival. I mean, you're even seeing the mainstream media, soft pedal. Oh, the protests are mostly peaceful as they're tearing down every statue and destroying our history. And it says in the Bible, you shouldn't destroy your history. says in the Bible, bad things happen to countries that destroy their histories. I don't know what verse it is, but it's in there. And that's what they're saying. They're saying that this leader of these Marxists, communist Nazis. Oh, and incidentally, during the Nazi regime in the 30s, you know what their slogan was? Defund the police. The Nazis wanted to defund the police, and they replaced them with their Nazis. But that was a 1930s, 33 slogan: defund the police. Nazis, Democrat, Socialist, same thing as National Socialist. Nazis, Democrat, Socialist, Nazi, Globalist, Marxist. Take your pick. We don't believe in God. And then Trump is tweeting out to this hawk Newsom that this is treason, insurrection, and sedition. And he's absolutely right. We're in for a heck of a fight, folks. This is the biggest psyop in history. All of this stuff is about psyop. Even Sullivan getting his orders to, I want to put Flynn in jail. He's already pled guilty. And even though they want to retract the case and it was a total scam. Another psyop. We need a psyop. Donald Trump, nobody showed up in his, and look at all the upper rows because they kept all the people out and said there'd be a COVID outbreak and bought all the tickets, and then they did. Come on. Does anybody really think Joe Biden is up 14 points over Donald Trump? Yeah, no. And now we have second wave. Oh, there's a second COVID wave. We got to shut it all down again. This is why Trump's saying we're not going to shut this down again. The amount of deaths. I mean, I think every death cost almost 400 jobs. I was reading on one report, 385 jobs. Every death, 385 jobs. More than 44 million people applied for unemployment. Are all those jobs coming back? No. They're going to keep the unemployment going until after the election. They're going to have another bill. It's going to pass some way, shape, or form. They're going to keep that going. But this is all the Democrats. The Democrats are the party of dirty tricks and Antifa and Black Lives Matter and communism. And they hate God. Even though Nancy Pelosi, she's some sort of Catholic or Christian. I don't know what she is, but she loves abortion. So, this is, take a knee for Black Lives Matter, the Marxist group. These are Marxist folks. This is communism, Marxism, Nazism, are all rolled into one. It's evil. It's good versus evil. And so, whatever you do, I just want you to make sure that you don't fall for the psyop. You should consider everything from the legacy media a psyop. I didn't say this when I started. I'm on a farm in Missouri. And, boy, last year, crops bad. Awful. I was driving out here, in Kentucky and Indiana and Illinois and coming out there last year, and it was bad. It was bad all year long. The crops were bad. There was all these prevent planting checks. Farmers took a hammering. They got killed. This year, different. The winter wheat just got harvested. Here's what it looks like. Little winter wheat. And what happens is they plant the wheat in the fall, and then it comes up sun, and then winter comes, and then in this time of year they harvest it. Let me see if I can hold still. That's the little wheat kernels right here. You can see the little wheat buds right here. Oops, I think. And so that's what it looks like. And then they take the wheat, and then they plant beans generally around here, and things look good. I mean, they have the saying, belt high by the 4th of July, right? And I saw varying degrees of corn, but even the small stuff looked uniform, looked pretty. But most of it was about belt high or thigh high, and some was, this high. A good 5-6 feet tall. This is beautiful. I mean, here I cut it off in one of my neighbor's fields right here. And I cut it up about this far so it was, that's about head high. That's, it's huge. So the idea that we're going to have some food shortage, listen, yes, I know they were killing hogs and restaurants had shut down. A lot of restaurants are going to stay shut down, but people are getting out. Missouri is a state that's mostly open. And so it looks like right now, of course, you don't know what's going to happen, but I think they're going to have a pretty good crop in both winter wheat, which is around $5 a bushel. Corn prices are low, but looks like yields are going to be fairly high unless something happens, widespread hail or something. And beans, they're getting in right now, or drought. We could end up copping a drought, catching a drought from now here on in. It rained at the beginning of the year, and all of a sudden, boom, just shut off. And then we didn't have. They were starting to complain here just before I got here about we don't have any rain, and bam, it rained here in the area, and it looks like we're getting some rain in other areas in the Midwest, and it looks like the good news is it doesn't look like we're going to have some sort of massive food shortage, at least at the moment. And so with that, I just want to tell you thank you for supporting me on usawatchdog.com. I appreciate your comments and donations. That really helps out. And just don't be afraid. Evil wants you to be afraid. They want you to think they're more powerful than they are. They're not. And they're in the minority. I think the whole Democrats are so desperate. They're in the vast majority. And they're going to lie, phony poll after phony poll, lie, to demoralize you and make you fearful and make you withdraw and stay inside. Don't be afraid. Evil wants you to be afraid. Don't be. Remember, prepare yourself mentally, physically, and above all, spiritually. Fear not. God the Father, His Son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit are all firmly in charge. Evil wants you to be afraid. I'll say it again. Don't be. Fear not. Thank you for supporting usawatchdog.com.